Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar, What are Managed Services? Thank you for joining us today. My name is Michael Pickreign. I am the president and co-founder of Tech42, and I've been doing this for just a little over 25 years now and have had the really incredible opportunity to have a dual background in network engineering and software development and having really been able to work in depth on both sides of the house there. And I'm really passionate about technology, but really where human and technology interaction come together and how people use technology, and really about making technology more useful and efficient for the people that use it, because technology is really about, in my mind, making jobs better for people and making tasks easier to do. So today we want to talk about what are managed services. So why this subject? Why is this subject important? Well, it's because there's an incredible amount of ambiguity and confusion around IT outsourcing and this term managed services. Every technology service provider, or TSP as we call ourselves, says they have managed services right now, but do they? What services are being provided? What is being managed? And how do you, as the client, know that you're getting what you need? And we really want to try to pull that apart, show what the different levels of managed services are, the different offerings that companies give, and what you need to know about them, what the pros and the cons of each of those are. So to start the conversation off, I created this graphic, and I really wanted to talk about the evolution or the life cycle of a technology service provider, where they start, where they grow to, and kind of what, why we want to grow as TSPs. And we all kind of start off in this space that we call self-managed, which really is referring to you as the client. You are self-managing if you're with one of these companies. Now, often in this space, the companies will talk about either break fix, they use terms like time and materials, support agreements, but it's really based around the idea that everything they do is a billable charge. They bill time to fix broken equipment and products in your office. And this is where we started out ourselves a number of years ago. But at that point, there's little internal structure. Everybody kind of does a little bit of everything. Every engineer, takes whatever tickets available. There's no really dedicated resources to help desk or servers and security. It's a little bit of Wild West out there. And there's no real consistent strategies for support. It's really just a, hey, we're just going to get to you as quick as we can. We're going to do the best job we can. But there's no strategy wrapped around how do we make sure that happens consistently every time. Security, we believe in it. We always believe in it. But it's kind of a best hope. Again, we're not being intentional about it. We don't have a strategy. And we're really, those companies unaware of what industry best practices look like and tend to use outdated methodologies and tools. So from there, you kind of graduate into being a hybrid. You realize, hey, there's this thing called managed services out there. It's the better way to do IT. We want to get there. And so you begin to develop some internal structure. You begin to think through strategies. We want to be consistent. We want to make sure we're doing the same thing every time. But we probably haven't documented it yet, or if we have documentation, it's sparse or it's not structured well. But we're starting to seek out some best practices. But we're really, at this point, we're unable to predict technical outcomes. And that's really the biggest thing that's holding us back from really moving into that fully managed space. But when we do evolve into being a fully managed company, we really achieve a high level of technical and operational maturity. We've learned to document our strategies for support and security. As a matter of fact, we live and die on our documentation. Everything has to be done consistent and done the same way over time to make sure that we can really predict those technical outcomes. And we become really good at actively monitoring, adapting to industry best practices to make sure we're delivering best in class, best of breed solutions and technologies all the time to our client base. Now, this pyramid here, companies can exist at any level of this over, there's no real timetable. The self-managed space, we lived there for probably over 20 years. That's where we lived before we started to graduate. But once we started to grow, we kind of burned right through hybrid in like less than a year, and then have been in this fully managed space for a number of years now. And we're still growing within that. But the breadth and the maturity of our company has significantly grown over the evolution moving up this chain. And you'll see this amongst many, many IT providers out there. So let's break it down a little bit and look at what does it look like, or how do I know where my technology service provider is in this evolution? Well, the first level we call self-managed. And again, it's really referring to you as the client are self-managing your IT. Now, often your service provider won't say that. They won't use those words. They're going to use words like, oh, it's a break fix agreement, it's a time and materials or T&M, or you have block time, a support agreement. But really at the end of the day, their quote unquote managed services is somewhere around a $20 or under per device per month charge that puts their agent on your systems to allow them to do basic patching, some limited monitoring of some key resources, and then really give them remote access to your systems. But everything else is an hourly charge. Everything they do for you is an hourly charge. And this drives some problems in the relationship. One is it's completely reactive. They are not incentivized nor even often allowed to operate proactively. They're not allowed to really do a whole lot of maintenance by the client themselves. The TSP, the technology service provider, is financially incentivized in reality by your downtime. The more stuff in your environment that breaks, the more time you have problems is financially advantageous to them. That's when their bottom line goes up. And really, you being uptime, you not driving tickets into their environment decreases their profitability. So they're really incentivized. Now, they may still be good people. They may not think or operate that way, but it is the nature of the relationship. And ultimately, because of that, you as a client are responsible for your own uptime, your own security, and your own strategy. Now, you may say, no, I have this provider over here. They do a really great job. They're responsible, but you probably don't have a contract. You don't have any formal agreement between them. There is really no liability on them, and they know it, and they operate that way. And the problem is oftentimes they'll get frustrated and discouraged because they will come to you as a client and say, hey, we need to do this, or we ought to be doing this. And they'll get shut down because, oh, there's an expense involved for you as a client, and hey, we're managing the budget, and it just doesn't make sense right now to fix something that's not broken. So over time, they stop bringing things to you because it's just a waste of effort and they're not getting anywhere. And you end up with what we call the Scarecrow Effect. And you'll see our buddy the Scarecrow in the picture there, where he's pointing his arms in opposite directions, which way to Oz, and he points in your directions. And that's this thing that you end up with is you're pointing fingers at the IT vendor, they're pointing fingers back at you, you're both pointing fingers at a software vendor or a phone vendor, and everybody's frustrated and nothing's getting fixed. And it's just what we call a very adversarial relationship. And what'll happen even is the TSP will come in and say, hey, we want to do X, Y, or Z. And then you start having this thought inside your head of, well, gee, should I really do this? Or are they just having a low week or a low month and they're just trying to find work to do? And that's kind of what becomes the nature of this relationship, unfortunately. And it works for some people over time, but it's really not the best. It's not delivering high quality IT, and it's a struggle. And then from there, they kind of graduate into what we call a hybrid or limited plan. So they bump up their offering a little bit. What do they offer? Well, they have that same basic patching monitoring plan because they're used to it. It works, right? But now they realize, hey, we can bundle some hours into this thing. We'll flat rate a certain amount of time for you per month, but there's a limit on it because they don't understand how to predict and control technical outcomes. So they're a little afraid, and they're like our friend there, the cowardly lion. He's got best intentions. Put him up, right? But he's really a little afraid of what he doesn't know. He lacks a little courage in the IT space because he's just not mature enough to have the organization to be able to really consistently predict those technical outcomes. So he puts a limit on it and says, we're only going to give you so many hours, or we're only going to give you so many tickets per month. And then overages, they're charged at an hourly rate. And usually we see that going for somewhere around $50 per month per device. And, it gives you a little bit more. But the problems with that is it's still mostly reactive. There's still little or no budget there for the TSP to really be proactive. There's no incentive for them to be proactive with your network. It's really just they're kind of figuring out how much do you need and trying to pre-charge you for some of it. And really at the end of the day, they're still financially incentivized by your downtime because once they hit that overage charge, hey, they're making more money that month. Their bottom line just went up. They're also not incentivized by speed of response or resolution time, right? Which means that you've got this plan, you've got something to contract in place, but we're really not monitoring it, and we really want you to go over. So speed of resolution time isn't super important to us, right? Just keeping you happy and kind of have our finger in the wind to understand that right now. And then there's still, very little responsibility on the TSP for uptime security strategy. It's mostly sitting still firmly in the lap of the business owner and the client themselves. So from there, though, we mature into this fully managed, or what we call ACE, all-you-can-eat offering. And I put a picture up of the wizard there, and he's kind of the one that's there to guiding. He's pulling a lot of strings behind the scenes. He's telling you the right things to do. He doesn't get you home, but he tells you where home is. And really that's kind of what we're looking to be, is kind of that advisor that's taking responsibility for getting everyone where they need to go, putting the right pieces in place. So what do we offer? Well, we still offer that same managed patching with remote access plan, but we really increase our monitoring, and we go into more deeper advanced monitoring, because guess what? The responsibility is now on us as a TSP for uptime. Responsibility financially is on us. So we want to make sure that we're identifying absolutely everything we possibly can before we get there, to make sure that we're not, that we're driving uptime and stability into your network. So usually, how are we selling this? Well, we're selling this as unlimited remote and on-site support for managed devices. So there's no cap on it, no limit to the number of hours and who puts tickets in. We even open the doors and say, look, all of your staff should be calling us. Don't make it just one person or two people in the organization. Let everybody call on us, because that's kind of the human monitoring. We want to know the problems are out there so that we can attack those and resolve those early. And we do that sometimes just by hearing from your staff. So what does this price out for? Well, it prices out to about $120 to high dollars per month per user, or per user. There's two kind of ways to do it, either per device or per user. Depends on the environment, what makes more sense. Different companies do it differently, but that's about the national average right now, is $125 per month, and per device or per user. And it's an all-inclusive thing. We cover all of the workstations, all of the laptops, all the servers, all the switches, all the firewalls. We usually cover mobile devices wrapped into that. So what's not covered? Well, projects. If you have a big project, and we have some definition of how we define what projects aren't covered. But those are usually out-of-band things that aren't happening on a monthly basis, or non-covered devices. So typically phone systems wouldn't be covered. Printer maintenance wouldn't be covered. So installation, setup of printer is covered. But if you have to take a screwdriver to it, it's not covered. And some other things. But mostly the day-to-day stuff, the stuff that all your employees would need access to and support with 100% covered, becomes very budgetable, very predictable. So what are some of the benefits from this? Well, it becomes very, very, very proactive with preventive maintenance. We are looking to do things that you would never before let us do or pay for, but now it's in our best interest to do them, because our bottom line goes up as your uptime goes up. The fewer tickets you put in, because the fewer things are broken, the more money we make. So the whole paradigm shifts here. We are now, as a TSP, financially incentivized by your uptime, which really aligns more closely with the goals of almost any business owner I've ever met. Is, we want to have uptime. We want our network to be up, and we want to pay for that. We don't want to reward people for our network being down. It's also, we become incentivized by speed of response and resolution time. It's important to us. Are we getting tickets resolved in a timely fashion? Because if we're not, it's hurting us as much or more than it hurts you as the client. So we become very concerned with understanding those, driving those, tracking those. We also become fully responsible for your uptime, security, and strategy, which really makes the most sense. I mean, we're the ones that spend time in the industry. We're studying these things. We understand it better than anyone, because it's our job. It's where we live. So make us responsible for it. But what that leads into is we create positions like VCIO and project managers. VCIO stands for Virtual Chief Information Officer. And what we do is now we begin to put people in play in our organization, to face your organization, to talk to you about these things. Hey, how do we help you drive uptime? How do we help you improve security? How do we strategize with you to do these things over time and to help you understand it? And some of the stuff we do around that is research. We do a lot of research on our own. We're talking to our peers, other companies that do what we do around the world, to say what's coming out next, what do we need to be protecting against. It also gives us the freedom to, hey, if there's something we need to be doing from a security standpoint, we don't quote you and go through an approval process. We just do it because that's what you're paying us to do, and you're already paying us on a monthly basis, and we have that room to make sure we're doing the right things for you and having those conversations with you. It also lets us, unfortunately, get rid of our friend the Scarecrow. We get rid of him right out of the equation with this thing called vendor management, which is where, we say, hey, you're paying us to manage your network, so why wouldn't we manage the whole thing? And we say, look, let us talk to your vendors. Let's talk to your internet vendor and your phone vendor and your software vendor and your copier vendor. And, we may not be able to fix all those things, but we will manage them to resolution. We're not going to come to you and say, well, that's your problem or their problem. No, they're all our problems now, because that's what you're paying us for. And we're going to manage those through to a resolution for you on your behalf, and that's our job. And then lastly, KPI tracking. We've had to get really good at tracking key performance indicators of how well your network's doing, how well we're doing responding to you, what's the customer satisfaction look like. And then we have digital signage in our office. We have big screens up on the wall in key places to monitor this stuff, to drive this stuff. And then even gone to the point of this is how we now bonus our staff. The staff is bonused on how quickly they respond to you, how well they respond to you, which really creates just this really great partnership type dynamic of a relationship. And that's really driven our customers forward. I'll tell you, even in this most recent crisis we're going through, this pandemic, because we've been working with these fully managed customers to develop incident response plans and disaster recovery plans. In most cases for these customers, we were ready for this. We're ready to implement work from home because we've already been talking about, well, what do we do if there's an extended snowstorm? Or what do we do if there's a significant loss of facilities or resources within a client's environment? How do we handle that from an IT perspective? And we've built plans around it. So now that we're facing, hey, we got to start distributing workforces. We got to get people working from home. It's like, okay, let's just start doing it because we already have a plan for it. We already know how we're doing it. We have systems in place because this is the type of thing that's not been put on us. And we think about on a daily basis as a fully managed, mature technology security provider. So that really kind of wraps on most of what I wanted to talk about today. Just a couple things, one of the other things that we get to do that's been really cool, it's worth mentioning, is kind of wrapped around this idea of HaaS and HAR, hardware as a service, hardware as a rental, and really just being able to take all of your hardware expense and wrap that into a per device fee. So we have that like $125 per month or per user management fee. We'll tack $45, $50 extra on that per user a month, and we'll say, look, we'll replace all of your hardware, your laptops, your desktops, your servers, your switches, everything, get you on a refresh schedule. And rather than it's become a huge capital investment that you have to do every few years or try to spread over time, it just becomes a function of your monthly payment to us. It becomes very simple and very easy. And again, you don't have to think about it. We manage that, we deploy that, we set all that up for you. So that's some of the stuff that's emerging in the fully managed market. So that, I hope it kind of gives you an overview of the different levels of managed services and how it's broadly used across these different maturity levels. Everybody says they're doing it. The real deal is this fully managed, all you can eat. That is fully managed. We're really owning and managing the network. If you're not paying for full management, you're really not getting managed services. You're getting a cheap substitution somebody's using the term for, but really not managing or owning responsibility for anything in your environment, both from a philosophical standpoint, but also from a contractual standpoint. They're not liable for stuff in your network. I think that mostly wraps up what I was going to touch on today. If we do have a couple of questions sitting out there that I did want to look at. The first one is just talking about fear in transitioning out of IT networking and the cost associated with it. And I just, my first response to fear in making the transition is probably you ought to be more afraid if you're not putting someone responsible for this stuff. We've seen some really incredible shifts in the landscape of cyber security, cyber terrorism in the last 12 to 18 months. Just the rise of ransomware and cryptojacking and different stuff like this, that where small businesses have become a target in a way they were never before. I think last year the number was something like 43% of all cyber attacks globally were targeted at small business. That's a substantial number, my friends. And if you're not studying this, if you're not into this, if you're not paying attention to this and really understand what you're doing, you just don't have the resources or the knowledge pool to be able to defend yourself. You need a good advisor to be able to do that kind of thing for you. And that's kind of where we come in. We spend a lot of time, as I said before, talking to our peers, talking to vendors, understanding this. And even in a fully managed plan, like we made some shifts even in the last couple of months for our customers. So we realized, hey, there was some new threats coming out. We need to protect it. And we went out, we did the research, we found the right tools, we implemented it in our managed service clients, and then we went in and told them what we did. We didn't wait for the approval. We didn't wait for them to try to understand it. We understood it, and we're protecting our clients because that's our job, and it's what we do. So I'd say the greater fear is not having someone available to do that and understand that for you. My next question is coming from a CFO saying, look, I've never spent $125 per user before. It seems like a really high number, but how do I know what a reasonable expenditure should be for IT right now? And my answer to that is that's really difficult. It does range. I think $125 per user is pretty reasonable We've certainly seen companies that spend significantly more than that. We've seen companies that, for what they would pay in, what they would pay in $125 a month, they would probably afford to hire one person, but they have 4 people on staff, 6 people on staff. And then we've seen all the way at the other end, where they really are underspending. So there's this really broad range of what's out there. I think $125 is a pretty reasonable benchmark. I think it's a fair assessment of what's good for a network. But here's what I would say to all companies, especially to a CFO, because CFOs really understand, the concept of auditing and how important having auditing is in a financial setting. Having someone from the outside come in, look at your books, look at your finances, says, hey, am I doing things right? Am I taking all the right steps? Am I protected against, whatever the IRS is doing this year? I want to make sure that I'm not going to get hit with fines or, be in trouble. And I know as a business owner, I certainly do that. I have a CPA I talk to every year and say, hey, am I doing all the right things with my bookkeeping? Are there things I should be doing that I could benefit from? And just have that outside perspective. And that's what I would really recommend to anyone is get an audit done, right? You don't even have to hire us out of the gate. Bring us in to do an audit and just give your current IT provider, your internal staff a report card. Say, hey, here's what's going well, here's what's not. The best meeting IT people out there we all fall prey to the same certain things, and we have a certain ADD and shiny object syndrome, right? We like to focus on the things that are the most fun for us. Well, the reality is especially for internal IT people, our bosses, our owners, they don't know what's important and what's not. As long as I can get to my email, my network's up and running, nobody's complaining, I don't care what my IT guy does. And so often what happens is the internal IT staff will spend a lot of time on the things that they get praised for, that they get noticed for. And they're good things that they're doing, but the things that they're not doing are the documentation and the preventative maintenance and the key upgrades that they should be doing. All things that are so important to a healthy network, to a protected network, that they either don't have budget for, time for, whatever in their landscape, and they fall by the wayside. And then you end up with an IT person that is literally all of your eggs in one basket. And if that person gets hit by the proverbial bus, you're in a really bad spot and you don't even know it. Or if you get attacked through cyber, through ransomware, you don't know it. And often these guys, they have really good intentions, but to me, they look like, a guy with all 10 fingers and all 10 toes stuck in the holes of a dam trying to keep it from leaking. And there's 2 or 3 leaks that they don't have fingers for, but they know that if they move a finger at a certain point in the day or a certain point in the month, nobody's going to notice. And then, the business owner comes in and says, hey, I need this. So they pull a finger out, put it in another leak. And but if you lose that person, all of a sudden, all of your redundancy and all of your what looked like a really well-built network is just gone because they were kind of holding it together with duct tape and baling twine, as my grandfather would have said. And as a business owner, it's not a good place to find yourself. So have a company like us or another MSP come in and do a technological evaluation on your business, and then you'll know, hey, how well are we doing, and where should we be at? And we can even talk to you about, hey, am I overpaying for IT? Do I have too many IT people? How can I be more efficient? Or am I underpaying? But those are really good conversations to have, and even have it with more than one TSP. Evaluate a few, see what they say. But make sure that when you do that, you're kind of evaluating against this talk today of, am I comparing apples and oranges? Am I comparing, one of these self-managed companies that's giving me this $20 a month package that seems financially really good, but then when I look at this Tech 42 who's doing this all-in plan, like, oh my goodness, it's like they're so expensive. But you're not comparing apples and apples. You're comparing like apples and grapes, for goodness sakes. And you're not going to get a fair comparison. The services you're getting aren't going to be the same. All right. Well, thank you so much. That's the end of the questions I have. Thank you so much for everybody that took part today, for the questions that were asked. And I encourage you, we're going to be posting this out on YouTube. We're also on Facebook and LinkedIn and other social media, so check us out there. And my information is there on the screen. You're more than welcome to give me an email, mpickreign@tech42llc.com, or you can call me at 209-7200. Check out our website, and we'd love to connect with you guys, help you in any way we can. But again, thank you so much for your time and attending today, and for those of you that do this in the future. And check us out in the future. We're going to be doing a webinar every month this year, trying to wrap around educational topics, just educating you more on IT and IT services to help you just make good decisions for your business and organization. All right, thanks. Stay safe. Have a great afternoon.